Happy Thursday yet again, Locked On Women's Basketball fans. Guys, today we have the voice of Unrivaled Hoops here to talk things all unrivaled. Locked On Women's Basketball starts right now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Brendan, welcome back. You've been on the show before, and now since we've talked, last time we talked, it was all Connecticut Sun hoops. You're also the voice of Connecticut Sun. Now you've spent a couple months in Miami. You've called huge historic moments, and I don't know if you look at things online, but I love your coverage. I love the enthusiasm you bring to the games. I love the jokes that you make too, and the rapport you have with everybody who comes on as an analyst or a reporter. And I know Unrivaled fans and women's basketball fans have loved your voice there. So I appreciate you taking the time. And what I know is a busy final week of the regular season. So thank you.
Gigi, you're gassing me up. We had 2 weeks to go. All right. Like, hey, it's gonna get to my head. No, thank you. It's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast. I think I've talked to you about this before, just when you get to work with great people on camera, behind the camera. It creates a working environment where, yeah, it was a new job, a new challenge, right? But then just to get those first couple weeks to settle in, and then we're talking basketball. So it's been really fun to be a part of, and really fun to watch these women go out there and, to use LeBron's term, display, take their talents to South Beach. They haven't had this opportunity to do this in the United States in the off season. So it's all. We're kind of hitting the tip of the roller coaster here at the end of this regular season, and then we'll get to it, I'm sure. But I don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs. I think we could see chaos in a good way.
I hope so. And that's the thing. Like, I think early on we saw the teams get divided. We're like, all right, we see who's on every team. There's some way too early rankings that were wrong. Like, there's already two teams that have punched their spot into the playoffs. So, I mean, did it surprise you at all? Like, how things have shaken up, where it kind of seems like, only one team really can beat the Lunar Owls. They've only have one loss, and now the Rose are the second team to punch their playoff spot. So, did that surprise you?
Did it surprise me that Lunar Owls are 11-1? Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking.
The record's very impressive. And as you pick apart their roster and look at the resumes, but also just their personalities and the way they've all made it work, they still all have the same common goal. Colliers like this, just calming presence while also trying to help operate a league, right? Let's keep that in mind. Alicia Gray, I think, has been one of the more underrated veteran players, because she's been in the league for 8 years. One of the more underrated players in the game. Her leap as a shooter with this experience has been unbelievable. And then you got Skylar and Courtney Williams. Love Courtney, her relationship with Fee from Minnesota. DJ Sackman calls her the microwave off the bench. So they're finding a way to piece it all together. And each and every week, they just raise the bar as far as their connectivity, how they defend, how they utilize ball pressure to set the tone in games. And look, I think I've said this to someone else before. When Skylar had that comment after one of the games recently, like, we are the league in terms of we set the tone for how this league's going to go. You can say that stuff, in my opinion, when you're 11-1 and we look at the scoreboard, because that's why we watch sports, right? We look at the scoreboard and see how it goes. So, but to keep this in mind, Mist has led this team after 3 quarters twice, and they were right there. And Mist is starting to play better. They've won 3 in a row, and they've had Lunar Owls on their heels twice. Laces have been right there with them. They're starting to just get healthy. Vinyl had a 1-point lead or a 4-point lead at halftime in their recent matchup, and they were scoring on them. So they can be had because the games are too fast and the single elimination dynamic. And, of course, Rose. I mean, you mentioned Rose. I mean, Rose guarded them and did not let them get settled into their stuff. So I guess the record, it's pretty impressive because they have deserved a night where they could just go, it's not our night. And they haven't done that. That's impressive.
And with that too, though, they have that comfortability where they know they could switch it on. It could be anybody. It could be Courtney. It could be Fee. We've seen it be Skylar a lot. Like I feel like I can't talk enough about Sky Diggs and how great she is for this league and for this team. But so in that game, they end up beating Phantom 92-79. But the beginning of the game, it wasn't really theirs. But then they turn it on and run away with it. Is that kind of what you're saying is a pattern of theirs? Is some teams could get up on them in the first half, but then they have the ability to turn it on?
Exactly right. I mean, like any pro sport, when you are the hunted and you are playing well, and then you're starting to feel your press clippings a bit. Now, some teams, it goes the other way. Like they lost that game to Rose, and I was curious, like, what would it look like after a loss? And notice how they hit first and they set tone first. I've come to find, Gigi, with this format in Unrivaled, what teams I heard a lot of in the early part of the year was how important the third quarter was. And I think that's the reason for that is because I think early on, these clubs are trying to figure out what personnel works together and what sets they want to run and what the other teams are running, right? Just because it's all so brand new and fresh. And then, how to finish the third quarter because that establishes the winning score. But now now that everybody knows each other, meaning the clubs around the league, I think people are figuring out like, oh, they know what we're running. We know what they're running. If we don't get off to a good start, we're playing catch up from the get-go. And see, the one team that's proven that can just overlook that a little bit is Lunar Owls because they go down 8 to Phantom. But I thought Phantom played pretty well. There was a game before that too where I thought Laces were playing well despite being injured. This was before they got Thomas, Hayes, and Young back. And they're the only team in the league that shoots better than 50% from the field. And they're the only team in the league that's shooting north of 36-37% from the three-point line. They lead the league in assists, but they commit the fewest turnovers. You don't hear that a lot. Like, that's hard to do. So they're a well-oiled machine, but any given night, someone can get got. And I wouldn't say they're playing with their food quite yet, but I would just urge folks to be careful. I think it's one of those postseasons where we're in the month of March, right? Just get in and miss. Like I told you, right now it would be missed Lunar Owls 1-4, right? I mean, that's Lunar Owls missed was right there twice. So
you're saying
they're a great story.
Of the two founders. Is that kind of what you're anticipating? A little championship, Stewie versus Fee?
Oh, I meant the first round, if that's how it shook out.
Okay.
But there's a lot of I don't know. I just think it's not a guarantee, and I think they would tell you the same thing. And that's what keeps them. That's what's keeping them level-headed right now. That's for sure.
I think it's one of the best parts of the league is just how competitive it is too. And I know Tosh was on last week, and she was like, what's the best part of the league? Okay, there are all these facilities, all the perks outside of basketball, phenomenal, top notch. The best part of the basketball is just how competitive they could be on their teams, but then also against each other. Like, this is a mind-blowing league, the fact that all of these players have come together to do this. And then you look at like matchups for this weekend too. I know you're preparing already and you've got us on Stat Watch for a couple of things already too, but Laces versus Phantom happening tomorrow night, Rose versus Lunar Owls. Like, I feel like this is just a star-studded Friday night. I can't wait to watch. Do you have any predictions for those games?
Rose Lunar Owls feels like it's going to be an appetizer, and I'm curious as to how those teams go about it. I mean, Lunar Owls has the 1 seed locked up. They know where they stand, right? So maybe you figure out, and this is just me just thinking out loud, and we've talked to DJ Sackman about this and wondering, hey, do you try to give Courtney and Shakira Austin some more run just to play around with your rotations a little bit, right? Just in case, because what's happening too is, and we'll talk about Rose here in a second. What happens is when a big gets in foul trouble like that, that's a big part of Rose beating Lunar Owls was Collier got in foul trouble, and that's not taking credit away at all. It's a combination of Rose hitting first, and then when Collier is in foul trouble, that you know how to exploit their defense even more. So that's a credit to them for putting Collier in vulnerable situations. Now for Rose, health is another concern. Can they heal up on their front line? Angel has been terrific. Had a nice game the other night. Kind of a nice response game because she had 2 great games, as we know. They had the 2020 game. Then the performance dipped slightly. And then when they needed it to clinch a playoff spot, Chelsea's been like this all year. And really it's been like this and then like a rocket launcher. She's been unbelievable. And I know a lot of chatter, Chelsea brought this up in a post game was, I'm not sure why people forgot that I can do this, but
right.
I think she's had moments for sure. And I realize that she's been in the league now a long time, but Chelsea answering the call to be your number one option as a scorer. She's been on a heater. So hopefully she's got more of that left. I'm hesitant to doubt her. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about Rose, as far as their front court, like Angel's done a pretty good job holding down the fort. And I think fatigue started to set in the other night. But then what I'm learning more, I know we've heard the term relentless about Angel Reese, but to me, and maybe they're the same thing, to me, like motor. Her motor is improving with this, her stamina, because I thought she had a block shot or a key box out on Alyssa Thomas the other night that led to a fast break, shoveled it off to Gray and hits a huge 3, and they embrace it half court. So they're feeling themselves a bit, and they guard, they defend, they rebound, and Angel's a big part of both of those things, as well as their other surrounding cast. That's the beauty of this, Gigi. You can't leave anybody out because you can't hide anybody in this league, right? Everybody's getting a turn. Everyone has a piece of the pie. So Sykes, Ariel Atkins, Lexi Hull, and they're doing this without Ka Copper, who I think a lot of people thought going into the year that's their second best player, right behind Chelsea. So, as far as the matchups tomorrow, I think we'll see how Rose looks after winning. I think they would want to lock up some sort of seed, but again, I don't necessarily know if seed matters. They care who they play in the first round, as long as you get in, and they did their job. They got in. So, and for Phantom, it's like to keep your season alive, you got to do everything you can. I mean, mathematically, they're in a tough spot because of their point differential. So that's problematic. But I think Laces are set to put this thing together too. Laces are set to put this together. You kind of shook the cobwebs off. Got a couple of games with Hayes and Young out there. Same with Alyssa Thomas. Their minutes are up, so I fully expect Laces to stitch it together. But if Phantom plays the way they did in the first quarter against Lunar Owls the other night, 26-18 lead, that's what's so fun. It's competitive, but it's also, there's too many good players. Too many good players just to think, just roll the balls out, we'll be fine. And people see the record. That's not this.
There's so much Unrivaled to talk about, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the coverage that you're so intimately involved in, and then we're going to actually give out some awards. So more after this, we want to shout out one of our sponsors today, which is BetterHelp. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help actually makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build a strong support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. I know for me, the biggest thing I could do this year is learn to ask for help. And that's what I'm working on. I've seen firsthand how valuable it is to have a support system that keeps you grounded and motivated. And I preach that. So build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Brendan. So we talked a little bit about Phantom, and you mentioned their point differential-wise, they're dead last in the league, but that doesn't mean that they're not exciting and great TV. And you got to see one of the biggest moments of the season, I would say by far. And you had someone on the call with you and someone in the studio that has history with this. So can we just talk about BG's dunk. I feel like it was a matter of time. People knew it was going to happen. And I loved what the Unrivaled social account posted. They were like, lower what rims? Lower what rims? And then she dunks it. So walk me through it from your perspective, because I know what it's like to be on a call. You never know what's coming. It's all adrenaline in that moment. And so it's like, okay, maybe you have something in the back pocket for when a moment like this happens, but it's the first time in Unrivaled history all season that this happens. So from your perspective, Lisa's right there. BG throws it down. Walk me through what was going through your mind making that call.
Geez, there have been so many opportunities, I feel like, where Griner might do it or somebody else, mostly Griner, right? But first of all, and I've said this to people, I haven't necessarily publicized it on social media, but, I think I'm starting to notice it more, which is good. Natisha Hiedeman, what a heck of a play to set that up. I mean, that's what really allowed for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Deception in dribbling the ball, draw in the two defenders. We hear coaches now all the time in Unrivaled, like for the bigs, and I'm talking about defense. Like you can't get beat backdoor and see PG so open. But I think that was like just, again, when you play up and down and you're getting to the point in the year where fatigue might be setting in. Anyway, I don't know. I thought Hiedeman was going to go to the rack and make a move. But then she drew two, and there have been moments right there where BG's on the block. But, Gigi, like, you're not going into a game thinking like, hey,
this might happen.
like I'm just thinking like, and I think I'm trying to be fair to the women too. Like, we want to call a good basketball game.
Right.
Like you bring up the lower the rim thing, right? Like just it's almost like if I was expecting dunks every night, it's like kind of giving into that if you think about it in a way, right? Because I'm like just not giving good basketball its proper due. But when she went up and threw it down, it was cool. Like I was shocked. I was shocked because we hadn't seen anything really close to it. It wasn't like she tried it before. Like there wasn't a bookmark moment from earlier in the year where they were intentional. But then you find out from Hiedeman that they were like, we're going to get that dunk tonight. So maybe it's my fault for not anticipating it more. I thought I was okay on the call. Maybe I should have said it was the first one in history in the call itself. But you know what? When a play like that happens,
I think that's fine. You have Lisa saying that right after. It was a beautiful moment. And I think that's why it was so great. It was just like the people surrounding the call itself. It's like, there's great basketball outside of any dunks. This league does not need them, but it happens. And then it just so happens you have Lisa Leslie right there too. So I thought that was a poetic thing.
Yeah. In real time, Lisa was, it was very cool, very special. And then I think the other part of this whole thing is because the dunk was awesome. Then BG comes down and drills a three at the top of the arc. And I think that's maybe why, had that not happened, we feel the moment a little more. We probably show another replay of it right away. And there's more of like, I'm probably looking at Lisa like, how about that? But then BG comes down and drills the three. And that sequence was like, that's cool. Like that, throwing it down, 6'9" big, who's dunked before, after, of course, Lisa did it. And then to then stretch the floor and hit the three. That was cool. Because it was the very next trip down. It wasn't like we had a few moments there to just reflect on what we just saw. It was like, boom, boom. So it was cool. Good for BG. Just that's the whole, and I'm talking like last couple years. Like that was cool to have that moment. That was cool.
Anytime she wins, I'm like, she's so meant for this. And it's so hard not to support her. And I know, like, even watching her get honored at Baylor, I think it was last season, I was like, this is just a beautiful storyline to keep in mind. And I want to talk a little bit about the storylines in general, because you're telling stories. Yeah, you're calling all these games. It's real time. It lives and dies in that game. But then these stories live on. So you talked about on a different podcast the importance of this league being broadcasted on TNT. So can you can you just walk me through like maybe conversations you're having now of measuring the success of balancing, this is great basketball, obviously it's a successful league, with, all right, we got to show some kind of metric, some kind of numbers in a way to keep it coming back and keep that coverage there. So yeah, have you been part of any conversations surrounding that and surrounding TNT specifically with Unrivaled?
As far as what we've been doing on our, are you asking about how our broadcasts have gone in terms of how this keeps improving? I'm kind of confused by the question.
Yeah, no. Like I mean, obviously every broadcast is great, and I think you have experience with kind of newer leagues in a way. Like you worked with the PLL, and you see how you can have a league that has a great product, but a big part of the battle is actually telling the story in a great way, and that means high coverage, high quality coverage, and that's what TNT does. So yeah, the more the conversations around this great basketball getting the great broadcasting that it deserves, maybe even if it's with fans or with other people that you're calling the games with, just how important it is to showcase the product in a way that makes it accessible for viewers who can't come down to Miami and watch the game.
Well, the consistency of it is massive. And I think with consistency, there's good to me, like consistency is great because people know where to find us every week. And we're doing shows like this, and really that free agency frenzy going on for that 3 or 4 weeks was incredible because it felt like we were all, and I mean everybody that consumes women's basketball felt like we're in a chat room for Tuesday through Thursday, and then it's like, hey, they play a game on Friday, and hey, they play a game on Saturday, and then they're going to play Monday. Even if it wasn't featuring someone who got traded or someone who signed somewhere, right? Like it Unrivaled, the people would come for the, kind of hang for the drama. TNT likes the drama, right? And then stay for the basketball.
Yeah.
So I think we're in an important time for pro women's basketball, and same with college. I think the college game and the way the college game has lended to the pros, you get to follow your favorite players playing women's college basketball. It makes your draft more recognizable. I think it was one of the more recognizable college drafts last year. That's only going to keep growing. And the ultimate idea is when people go watch a game this summer, they're thinking like, that Unrivaled thing that they did this year, that really helped them. And I can notice the improvement. And then how do we get folks turning the clocks in their head to think, how is it going to look next year? Now, I think we just keeping the ever going cycle, and what TNT has embraced and what they think they're going to learn from after this year, and then having a summer to latch itself onto, is women's basketball at the professional level. In terms of the talk, the chit chat, it can become a 365, 24/7 news cycle.
Yes.
And that's what this winter proved to me, that it can be a cycle of discussion and not just reading a transactions page or seeing an overseas report with a box score and what they scored for points, rebounds, assists. And that's not like me.
Or not being able to watch the game too. You got your favorite player playing over in Europe, but you can't watch it. Like, it's so hard to stream. This makes it so easy and accessible for fans year round.
1,000%. Yeah. I mean, that's the key to it, right? Is the watching. That's kind of what I was getting at too with the other stuff. So having an outlet where they're playing. Now, as far as the games themselves, I mean, we'll see how they look at it after a full year of data. The one-on-one tournament I thought was fantastic, and how they embraced that as a different element, and the queen of the court mindset, that and establishing that women can do one-on-one too, and they don't get affiliated with it enough.
That was crazy to watch. The one-on-one tournament was absolutely insane. Like, you just see how skilled, like, and it was really it was a battle of, like, it kind of didn't surprise me. Yes, Fee is leading the league in so many things, but I'm not surprised she won the one-on-one because she was so strategic about it. And not to cut you off, but we have to wrap up soon. I want to wrap up with some awards for the season. So a little bit more after this, guys. Stay tuned because we're going to dish out a couple awards, and I'm very curious to see who you pick. All right, so today's episode is brought to you also by the one and only FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off and want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it helps keep every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you can win, you get paid instantly. Right now, the new FanDuel customers could get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, so last quick hitting questions. I love getting your expertise on this. So, Brendan, I have to ask you, my most curious one, most improved from January to now, most improved player we'll go with.
Most improved from starting in week 1, right? I think is the idea here. Ray Burrell is very high on my list. I would go Ray Burrell, Vinyl. Trying to think of a missing. This is the thing I hate about these questions. The only thing I don't like is I miss somebody.
Miss someone, right?
But
well,
yeah,
for that too.
Okay.
Ray Burrell. I was just wondering too, like, what player do you feel
or
like
Leah Edwards? One of those two. But right now for me, it's Ray. Okay.
Okay, I like that because of the one-on-one tournament, especially too. I feel like that just like cemented her as okay, I can hang, and I'm actually one of the best across this whole roster of people. So, second one, which player do you think deserves way more recognition than what they get?
When you say when they get, who you talk about from who? Like media?
I'm talking about from a media perspective. I have my answer.
Yeah, I got one too. Mine's De'Arica Hamby.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe she does. She was on the, she won 2 Sixth Women's of the Year. I think she is anchor, conductor of what they do and holds down the fort. And I know Ryan's big time and Enrique has been banged up and had some moments early in the year, but De'Arica Hamby can lead and is if Vinyl gets in, which they're in right now as we speak, if they get in and make a run, Hamby's going to be a big part of it. She's the oldest player on that team and has had to lead a group of kids, except Jordan Canada. And that's not me knocking, they're just young. They're a young team. So for Vinyl to be in the mix, I think De'Arica Hamby is a little underrated. And maybe Kayla McBride is too, is leading the ship. But I'll stop. Hamby. That's who
I like that. I was going to go, you said her name already, Hiedeman. I feel like just even throughout the W season, I'm like, why don't we talk about her more? And I feel like she's just such a fan favorite player too. So that's another reason why I'm like, we got to circulate her name. Final one. And I think this is tough because you could look at stats and who won the one-on-one tournament and say Fee is the automatic MVP. But for me, there's a different player whose name we've also already mentioned that stands out as, in a way, one of the most valuable players. And for me, I would go Skylar. But if you had to pick an MVP right now, who would you pick?
As far as the intangibles are concerned, Skylar Diggins-Smith should probably be discussed. And that's something we think we've lost in maybe it's pro basketball only, or maybe other pro sports. We do crunch numbers and we crunch analytics, and that's sometimes how we separate. Okay, we're having a hard time. Let's go to the numbers, and that's how we separate. The game winners are a factor, right? So that's why I think that's a fair call out that Skylar should be in the mix. I mean, Skylar's been kind of their tone setter. I mean, DJ Sackman said that way back when in camp, like Skylar was the tone setter. They had to be on the same page. So ultimately for me, that comes down to really great team chemistry. And they've only had 5 all year, and they've maintained health, which is so knock on wood. That's
Knock
good.
on wood, yeah.
You know what though, Gigi, I'm more and more that this goes by, and I'm a witness. I'm guilty to what I'm seeing. Chelsea Gray, I think right now is my MVP of the league. I think I've shifted on that, and that's not.
Oh my God.
Goes both ways. Owls have had their full team all year. Now they've had 5, so I'm almost getting Fee in trouble for something that hasn't happened, which is an injury or God forbid something but they've all been so cohesive. Just to give one of their players MVP, I think is shortchanging Alisha Gray and shortchanging maybe Skylar or even, maybe I'll come back around. We'll see how it goes. Because Fee's putting up great numbers and has been dominant. Also, laces. I'm almost elevating McBride a little more because they've been so banged up. And Kayla's cooled off a little bit the last couple of weeks. She was sensational.
Scores so much. It's crazy. She scores so much on a team that can score across the board too, which is just so impressive.
So I'll be clear, they've been terrific, and Kayla's played a ton. Kayla leads the league in minutes. I think minutes played in this format should not be overlooked, because if you're playing a high volume of minutes, now I realize you might score more, you might get more shots up because you are still in the game. But Chelsea shooting the 3 as well as she ever has, leading the league in assists still. But really, whatever that particular game needs and demands, Chelsea Gray has met that challenge. And in most cases, lately, it's been, I'll table set early, and then I'm going to go be an assassin at the end of the game and go win the game. And bringing up Angel and bringing up other, Lexi Hull.
Perfect word, assassin. That's
who she is. Injured. Stevens injured. I mean, they're peaking while players are hurt, and she's got more than half of their game winners, and she sets the tone for them. And then Nola Henry makes everybody guard. It's kind of a cool story.
Right. No, keep that in mind. MVP closes on March 11th, so make sure you get that vote in. Make sure you check out Unrivaled. Brendan on the call this weekend, and it's going to be such an exciting weekend. And Brendan, thank you so much for coming on yet again. It was amazing to pick your brain, so thank you. No problem. Don't get in my mentions about MVP because I didn't mention your favorite player. Not you. I mean your audience, because I know that's coming. So anyway. And they will. Yeah. Everybody get in Brendan's mentions. Make sure you check it out too. And thank you for tuning in yet again. Thank you.